Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. I can't tell you how much I enjoy doing these shows, and I so much appreciate my audience, all the questions, and all the newcomers to the show. Welcome, and we're going to go a little bit deeper tonight because, after all, I am psychoanalytically trained. I created a mind map system to make everything appear quite simple and connect the dots so that even children can understand a process that is based on childhood wounds and how they break you down and how to morph out of all this mess. So tonight we're going to be talking about the the consciousness behind narcissism. And on the surface, it appears as if the consciousness behind narcissism is a consciousness of confidence. But for those of you who've been studying, and also for those of you who tune into episode after episode of my YouTubes and other people's YouTubes, you see that there's a crack or a fallacy in this kind of thinking. But because there is really that facade of confidence, but behind it is not confidence at all. And this is a call-in show, everybody. So please feel free to call in. And that number is 323-524-2599. So I want to start with how I define consciousness. And I think that this is such a broad term. In my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, I define consciousness as causal. And by the way, you are all welcome to either go on Amazon and get a copy of the book or ask me for a free PDF of the book. I'm happy to give it. And I also appreciate you posting it on your Facebook, social media, so we could spread the information to people who often fall vulnerable to narcissistic abuse, which we will get into as well. But the consciousness that I'm referring to is what is behind it all. What is the driving force? And I pulled up some really great articles, and I was really delighted as I was reading the articles to see how much they are in line with my particular thinking. But then again, I'm not too surprised because these people are psychoanalytically trained and they read the same authors that I was reading back in my undergraduate and graduate years. So I think that this is something that people should become more psychoeducated in. And I'm taking it upon myself to give you some pretty heavy theory and break it down so that you understand it. And probably those of you who are listening have lived through narcissistic abuse, and you're on the end of trying to make sense of it all, of trying to understand what hit you and why you're so confused, why you feel so gaslit, and why your self-esteem is in the toilet at this point. Many of people who I put through the mind map system are in shambles, absolute shambles, because they are coming out of relationships with narcissists. And I just want to give a shout out to Rebecca Zung, who is an attorney and has a program called SLAY. And thank you, Rebecca, for referring so many patients to the Psychological Healing Center. And I'm referring them right back at you because Rebecca is a renowned specialist in how to handle divorcing a narcissist. And we have done an interview together. You can look that up. And I think it's fascinating when you bring psychology and the law together, and when two people who understand both the psyche and the legalese of how to handle these situations, you get a lot of protection for the person. So if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, or you're exiting a relationship with a narcissist, then you might want to check her out as well. This is an article by Dr. Sarah Sarkis, The Origins of Narcissism. And in the article, she talks about the drive to achieve greatness. So yes, this is the drive to achieve greatness. And oftentimes they're driven by the greatness, but behind the facade of the confidence that they often want to deliver to the world is something that's crumbling. And we're going to be talking about what's crumbling here. So she describes it as a personality structure, actually quite sad and fragile, despite an outward appearance of bravado and self-assurance. And I want to go over narcissistic traits so you all understand what these traits are. And I refer to narcissism as a system. I'm a systems thinker, and I see it as a system gone wrong, where the person doesn't have the healthy attachment necessary. This is an attachment issue. It's a developmental issue, and the attachment is not formed with a parent that offers mirroring and attunement and security and unconditional love. So when the primary caregivers do not offer these psychologically important foundational qualities, then there is a rupture here. And we're going to talk about what this rupture looks like, acts like, feels like, and what happens when the rupture's projected onto other people, which is why so many people get injured in the course of dating a narcissist, being married to a narcissist, having a boss as a narcissist, having a friend as a narcissist. And there just seems to be no shortage, because I think that at the core of it, we're in trouble as a human race. We are not giving foundationally to our infants, our children, the mirroring, the attunement, the unconditional love, the ability to hold a sense of self that is integrated. And so this goes back to Dr. John Bowlby, the founder of attachment theory. And Dr. John Bowlby talks about secure attachment, and that is exactly what is needed to prevent people from becoming shattered and then shattering others. So for those of you who are parents or want to become parents, please do your own journey, do your own work, so that you don't multi-generationally pass on this trait to other people, your own children, and you don't multi-generationally have them be at the effect of poor parenting skills. So again, the characteristics of this personality trait, and I've gone over and over them in quite a few episodes, but let's put it out there one more time. Grandiosity. Well, sure, that's the overinflated self in defense against the shattered, weak, coarse self. Fantasies of power, beauty, greed, etc. Again, these are defense mechanisms against the vulnerabilities that lay underneath the grandiosity. Hunger for excessive admiration, sure, because they were never unconditionally loved. Now there's a hunger, there's a deficit that I refer to as a hole in the soul. Interpersonally exploitive, sure, they're interpersonally exploitive because they've got to keep feeding their false sense of self. There's, again, that hole in the soul, and they need something to prop them up. So the prop up is the people that they find around them that they enroll in this horrific system, this horrific dysfunctional system. And by the way, this is a call-in show, everyone. So please do call in. I'd love to hear from you. 323-524-2599. And we also put together a program for recovering from narcissistic abuse with a very, very detailed, laid out video hosted by Ptsd, the life coach here at the Psychological Healing Center. And this goes pretty deep. And by the end of this journey, you will not be fooled, and you will learn how to reprocess the emotions that are stuck in you, the shame, the humiliation, the feeling drained, the feeling betrayed. This all has to be reprocessed, because if it's not, it ends up in a sense of a PTSD, and this PTSD is re-triggered over and over again. And the foundation for the PTSD, I want to connect the dots a little bit here, is the complex PTSD that parents leave their children with. So the complex PTSD is the unconscious childhood PTSD born out of lack of a proper connection, proper attunement, and sometimes even worse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and control and smothering, which are the 5 wounds that I concentrate on. Okay, so to go on a little further, narcissistic personalities have an impoverished capacity for empathy. And in a very plain, simple way, we can understand it as this empathy has never really been modeled for them, and so they lack it. Children absorb the modeling of parents. They absorb all of the words, all of the subtle cues, all of the nonverbal communication, and this absorption happens early on in life. And if this attunement and mirroring it doesn't take place, and the parent doesn't, quote, get the child from the get-go, then this empathy does not seem to develop. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear from people who are coming out of relationships where they have been feeling demeaned and devalued and destroyed because of these attachment breaks. Narcissistically injured people who then become narcissistic themselves draw other people into this process to shore them up, to draw attention from them, to draw admiration from them. And it's very, very unpleasant. And I can't tell you how many people who are sweet and people pleasers and vulnerable. I get a lot of nurses who come through this process, and caregivers and so on, and empaths who think that they're being great and generous and offering up so much empathy and help to people like this. It's just that at the end of the process, they feel drained, and at the end of the process, they are usually kicked to the curb. So, okay. So let's go on. Some other very, very sad qualities. Envy of others, because there's a threat that if you're better than they are, then instead of being able to have a whole sense of self and feeling good about themselves and able to include the goodness and the accomplishments of others, they perceive your accomplishments as threats to the core of their being. So what does that mean to you? Usually that you will be demeaned and devalued and destroyed. So try growing around a narcissist. Very difficult to do because they will drag you down. Why? Because your success is painful to them. They don't have the concept of synergy, which is, I'll point to it here. I think it's better if you put it up on the board. Panel number 7. Panel number 7 is synergy. It's the paradigm shift into the we-ness, not the me-ness. And in order to have a healthy we have to start with a healthy me. It's impossible to put a relationship together when the person is deprived of all of these psychological goodies, as I like to call them, because if they're deprived, they can't contribute and they can't enhance another human being. So what happens is instead of synergy, the other person feels vampired. And sometimes they don't understand why they're so tired and why they're not growing and the narcissist is growing. And it's really, really a very, very sad system gone wrong. And hi, thank you so much for calling in. And what is your name, please?
This is Clark.
Hi, Clark. Welcome to the show. And are you here for the first time, or have you been watching these episodes?
Well, first time I've called in, but I've been watching your videos over the past few months and have found them very, very helpful. with things in my life. And thank you for that.
You're very welcome. So what is going on with you that you identify with what I'm talking about tonight?
Well, over the years, I've just kind of slowly become aware of the fact that I have been a victim of narcissistic abuse at the hands of my mother.
Okay.
And it's been a very difficult thing to deal with. There is some relief in the fact that I have awakened to this now, and that I can see a bit more clearly and have gotten some clarity on the relationship, and I can take more healthy actions, I guess, for myself.
Is your mother still alive?
I'm sorry?
Is your mother still alive?
Yes, she is.
And are
She's
you
70.
okay? How old is she?
79 years old.
70. And where are you calling from, by the way? I always like to know where people are calling from.
I'm in Oregon.
In Oregon? Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your 79-year-old mother, has she softened up or not really?
No, not at all. No.
Not
I think I've learned.
Not surprised. Okay. And people don't soften up because softening up means exposing their vulnerability, which means having genuine emotions that have been defended against for so long. And I want people to really understand that. When I work with people, they cannot, for the life of them, understand why their parents cannot relate to their pain and suffering, even when they caused it. And this lack of human connection is because they've literally, as I explain to people, they've literally cauterized their emotions to protect themselves against emotions. And so it's sort of like talking to a brick wall, drawing blood from a stone, whatever analogy you want to use. So have you found that to be true for yourself?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And for many years, I had this expectation that at some point she would soften and love me and support me and things. But I think you used the terms demean, devalue, and destroy, and that is exactly what she's tried to do to me over the years. And she's gotten more crafty in trying to figure out how to do it, especially as I've learned to put up better boundaries over the years.
They're not going to like that at all. Okay, so what narcissists hate more than anything is exposure of their system gone wrong, because you're supposed to participate in it. You're not supposed to bust the system. You're not supposed to withdraw your support of them, especially as they get older. You're going to get very, very angry, and it's really pitiful, isn't it? Because they so desperately need the connection. They always needed the connection. And now that people are learning more and more about this disorder, and they don't want to really engage in it, and becomes terribly painful to care for narcissistic parents, especially when they didn't care for you. They're finding that they're alone in life, and that nobody really wants to engage with them. And I'm sure that you have similar feelings, that you don't really want to invest much more, if anything.
I've had to cut her out of my life completely, and I've divorced her, so to speak.
Okay.
And it's a sad thing, but I feel quite a bit lighter and hopeful with her not in my life.
Okay. And so you have to do that because a lot of people, they can't do that. They won't do that. Some people can function in a, I think the word is gray rock manner. Gray rock means you don't really give much. You're kind of parked in neutral with them, and you talk about things like, how's your salad? Or what was that movie that you watched the other night? Or, hey, happy birthday, or, whatever. Just sort of these little check-ins, so they don't really feel as though they've lost a parent, a mother or father. And people put this boundary at different points, anywhere from being drained and vampired of energy and being a caregiver to the end, to the gray rock, to cutting them off. And this is a very, very personal decision. And I always tell people to do what they think is best for themselves and put themselves first, whatever that looks like. And I think you figured out that putting yourself first means no contact with your mother.
Yeah, yes, very much so. Yeah. I've tried over the years to have a relationship with her, and it's this dance I've been doing with her for years. Is I think you call it smothering. She'll just be the nicest, kindest, most loving person in the world, and then I get closer, and then all of a sudden she'll just attack and just destroy me, and I just can't keep doing the dance with her anymore.
Very
so.
Right, very dysfunctional dance. And one of the things that I've seen is that when mothers smother their children, especially their sons, when there's this smothering going on, then men tend to associate women with smothering and control. And what happens is that it creates an inability for a man to view a woman as a synergistic partner. It's almost like, uh-oh, here comes a woman. So it's like if you've been bitten by a dog, you're not going to very readily pet the dog again. So if you've been, quote, bitten by your mother, then you're not going to very readily allow a woman into your life because you now associate that mother with the smother mother. And so tell me if any of that you can relate to.
Oh, definitely. I've had, in my life, I've had just a number of short-term relationships with women. I tend to have, I think, unconsciously chosen women who are like my mother. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, I've been afraid of continuing a relationship for much longer than just a few months. And I tend to sabotage it and remove myself from it.
And how sad, right? How sad, because what we tend to do is we tend to project on others our blueprint. And who's our blueprint? Our mother, our father, grandparents, multi-generational. And so once you get really clear on how to vet people, first, once you get really clear on the wound and the aversion that it's caused in you, and begin to understand the cause, which I think you understand is your blueprint and your mother and the dynamics there, right? And heal that part of you, then you can come to the relationship table in a more neutral way, okay? Mm-hmm. And then you can learn how to vet people, and you can learn to communicate and take your space as needed and come close as needed, and learn how to navigate this dance in not a dysfunctional way, but in a very authentic way to your potential partner. And I don't know if you want to try again, reboot the system, but that's what people do. They come to the psychological healing center, or they Skype with the psychological healing center, or Zoom in, because now, because of COVID, we're doing a lot of work, telework. And so it takes a lot of guts to try again, because what happens is that trust is broken, okay? Trust is broken. And if your primary person couldn't be a trustworthy figure, then why would a perfect stranger be a trustworthy figure?
Yeah.
It makes sense?
I hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. And, being able to detach has lightened my taking a load off of my mind. Yes. And I think I'm seeing things a bit more clearly. I've been told that the more I try to detach from my mother, the more she's going to go insane trying to keep me under her thumb. And I have found that to be very true.
Because don't forget, you were her supply for so long, right? You were the one that propped her up, and she was able to project your anger on you, and you're no longer there. So what is she going to be doing with all that anger and resentment? Probably trying to project it on her caregivers, or in some way swallowing it herself and going crazy. It's a really, really
Yeah.
sad, very sad. It's very sad for everybody. We villainize the narcissist because they're doing so much damage, and of course, who wants to be with a person who behaves that way? I'm hoping that people who are learning more about this dis-ease will have the courage to reach out for help and know that, number one, it's not their fault, but that doesn't mean that it's not their responsibility to heal. So
Hmm.
still hold the person responsible. It's not okay to project your feelings on other people. It's not okay to manipulate and control other people. So don't forget that she's presenting as though she's full of herself. I'm going back to the article here, but there's this fragile and neglected soul under all of this, who comes from the consciousness of fear. And because she's so unintegrated, she's got such a fragile sense of self, that how dare you confront that? And how dare you
Hmm.
not be there to prop it up? Makes sense?
Well, absolutely. No, I got lectures like that all my life from her about I am. She would always say, "I am your mother," and do jump through these hoops and just all kinds of guilt trips and things over the years that were very, very hurtful and hard to understand. But I'm starting to see it a bit more clearly now.
You know, the word "I am your mother" has a lot of weight, right? I am your mother. I'm the queen of your world. Well, to me, mother comes with responsibility. So you can be technically the mother of a person, but what does it mean to be a mother? To be a mother means that you put your child's feelings before your own. That's a true mother. A true mother is able to be there for her child, be there emotionally, be there physically, be there to care for that person on a just on a basic level, attuned to the needs of feeding schedule and crying and changing their diapers and so on. And then more than that, engage with the baby, eye contact,
Hmm.
skin contact, smiling, social engagement, because that's where we learn to trust. That's where we learn that relationships are delightful. That's where we learn
Hmm.
that there's something in it for us to engage with a human being. But with the narcissistic mother, parent, the lights might be on, but really there's nobody home. And if there is somebody home, there's somebody home so that you can feed that somebody. It's a reverse system.
Hmm.
By the way, do you have a PDF of my book, or the hard copy of it?
Well, no, I don't. I'll have to go to the site and download it, I guess, or order it or something. I'll go out and I'll make sure a copy of it.
And I'm happy to email it to you. Just email me at Dr. Judy at Psychological Healing Center, DRJUDY at psychologicalhealingcenter.com. And then I'll
Okay.
email you the PDF and you can share it with other people. I don't think your mother would appreciate it, so maybe don't share it with her. But then again, you're not talking to her, so you probably wouldn't be
Yeah.
inclined anyway. Anything else that you've been wondering about in relationship to this narcissistically abusive system?
Well, I just find that it was interesting. My mother was always very verbally and physically abusive. She used to, spank very heavily when I was young. And, but, she was there physically. She provided and, fed me well and cared for me up until I was about 15. And then she just kind of checked out and divorced my dad and ran off with another man and that type of thing.
Mm.
And, it's a little hard to understand, I guess, but
Was your
and it kind of
father? No, I was just curious about your father. Was he there for you?
yes, he was. Kind of financially, he was. Emotionally, he was very checked out,
Okay.
and he was kind of. I think he was more of a very passive man. I look at my parents' relationship like my mother was a hot burning flame, and my father was a man who just dripped little drops of gasoline on her flame. That's how they he was very passive aggressive, and she was very, I think she was manic depressive or something, but it was a very toxic relationship and hard to make sense of, especially as a child, I suppose. But Dad, my father loved me, and his love was unconditional. That's one thing I can say.
Mm-hmm. So he had the capacity for empathy.
Oh, somewhat. He just couldn't understand things, feelings and emotions and all that. He just was confused by them. But he tried, at least. And but he could never quite connect emotionally to anybody in his life, really, it seemed like.
And sometimes it takes us one parent to be that enlightened witness, one parent to give you what the other person couldn't give you. In panel number 2 of the book, I talk about the role of the father in the dynamics of the child. And the father is the supposed to be the nurturer of the nurturer. So he's supposed to nurture the primary caregiver and be the backup to anything that goes wrong. So he's supposed to catch the ball if things start falling apart. And you're saying in a way your father did. And by the way, physical abuse, every type of abuse is a disconnect. Okay, and physical abuse, I don't know what form, but it's very humiliating to a child to be hit or slapped or in any way disrespected. And people use it as a form of discipline. I'm very personally disappointed that it is a legal form of discipline, or at least, in some states, it's okay to hit your child. I don't think it's okay to hit your child, because I think there are better ways of shaping behavior, molding behavior. And if you hit your child and then your child ends up hitting other little children and hits you back, well, what's the big surprise, right? So what are you really teaching your child? Right? Okay, so maybe, I don't know if you have it in you, but if you have it in you, maybe give it another chance to reboot your system, because it's not fair that your mother tainted your view of relationships to that big an extent. And you deserve a real connection with a human being that isn't out to get you and isn't out to rob you of your emotional supplies, and isn't interested really in smothering you. They're interested in panel 7, synergy, playing a better life. So please do reach out, and I'm happy to email you the copy of the book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. Okay?
Okay, I definitely will reach out, and I thank you so much for your time and everything you're doing. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate it.
You bet. Okay.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, so damage after damage after damage, and I'm going to go on a little bit more with this article. So the fragility, the neglected and abused souls, that's what they are, but that doesn't mean that they're nice about it. That doesn't mean that they're they're behaving like little fragile, abused victims that are shaking. No, they're spewing their pain. On the contrary, so we've got to understand that behind the consciousness of this narcissistic dis-ease is deficit, loss of a loved object, rage, emotional hunger, and shame. So this article is in line with the way that I think this author also believes that this is an attachment disorder. So again, going back to Bowlby, if you attune to your baby, if you're mirroring your baby, if you're consistently putting the needs of your child before your own, you're going to create what John Bowlby defined as secure attachment. And if you play with the system, if you thwart the system, if you don't follow a system gone right, you're going to end up with ruptures in early attachment. What do those ruptures mean? Well, we're always rupturing relationships. We may have little mini ruptures where somebody wants our attention, but we can't immediately snap to it, or they need a hug and we're just on our cell phone and we're not attuned to them. But in regular basic relationships, you go back and you try to repair these ruptures relatively quickly so that you don't drop the person emotionally. With a narcissistic parent, you're feeling dropped. So there's an orbit. The child orbits around an unreliable, abusive, or absent primary attachment figure, usually a mother. And this results in catastrophic developmental consequences. So, blueprint counts. And so, going back to the title of the show, what lives behind the consciousness of narcissism is a consciousness of fear, a consciousness of fearing abandonment, even though they abandon, deep down underneath their abandoning others is a fear of being abandoned. Deep down underneath their behavior of demeaning and devaluing, destroying relationships, they have a fear of being exposed. They have a fear of being discovered in their inauthenticity. And yes, hi, thank you for calling in. And what is your name, please?
My name is Lee.
Hi, Lee. Thank you so much for calling in. And what drew you to this particular topic?
I was raised by a narcissistic mother, and I turned to a narcissist myself too.
You think you become that? You think you become that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But with a little bit more awareness than she does.
Okay. Okay. What where are you from, by the way? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from DC.
Oh, DC or British Columbia?
The District of Columbia.
Okay. Okay. And thanks for staying up so late to call in. So tell me what you have discovered about yourself in terms of narcissistic traits. And by the way, very few narcissists will call and say, "Hey, I think I'm a narcissist." You must really, really be working on yourself. So I congratulate you. So what have you discovered?
Thank you. It's actually a very, very painful discovery.
Okay.
Of myself being a narcissist, and one of the things is I do need a lot of admiration for my supply, and because I start to have this awareness, and I started doing it less and less and less, but that doesn't mean I don't have a need for it.
Right.
And then recently I had a couple of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, although in my day-to-day life I don't get supply from other people anymore, but I repressed that into my dream. In my dream, I was being this grandiose narcissist and trying to get supply from other people. So that was, when I woke up and I realized, this wellness didn't really make the need to go away. It was just repressed.
That is very insightful, and Freud, who I named the show after, Dr. Judy, WTF with the Freud, he believed that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious. So there was your royal road to understanding more about yourself and your repressed needs for admiration. And so this is exactly what I'm talking about, is a parent is supposed to give you this admiration. There's a particular time in life from birth to the first few years of life where you're supposed to be a number one. You're supposed to be special. It's called healthy narcissism. And if the parent does it right, then they pump you with self-confidence and uh, give you a very solid structure to build your psyche on, and then you have that inner core of confidence. So then you don't have to go to other people and get that admiration from them, which ultimately will frustrate them, right? Because if they've got to keep admiring you and admiring you and admiring you, and they start sensing that there's this hole in your soul, which you're discovering, right? The hole in your soul, the endless
Yes.
need for admiration, which is coming out in your dreams. And I just want you to know that we can repair that, okay? Especially in light of how courageous you are to discover it, because it's not your fault. Okay, it's not your fault, and yet at the same time, you know it's your responsibility to heal it, because neither you nor anybody else on the planet is capable of filling a person's hole in the soul, because that's what a hole is. If you have a cup and it's got a hole in it, right, and you pour water into the cup, it's going to drip out. And it's the same thing. If your parents didn't give you a foundation of love and self-esteem, no matter what people pour into you, it's not going to work. It's just going to pour right out, and then you need more and more and more, and pretty soon people are going to go away from you. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Yes. And it's really, really, really painful, because you so much want your needs met, but your setup is so was such a bad blueprint that you're almost like set up not to get your needs met. Understood?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all those feelings of anger and deprivation that your parents left you with have to be addressed and reprocessed, so that you have a chance to to be the healthy individual, to attract a healthy individual, and you can hold your own esteem in your own cup, so to speak. And you don't have to get other people to constantly be filling it. Okay, does that make more sense to you now?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
also one of the aspects that we deal with in the mind map system is the cultural overlays of how we're affected. What culture do you come from?
The Chinese culture.
Okay, and so tell me a little bit about how your culture may have affected your psychological blueprint, and what does the culture say about raising children and being attuned to them and meeting their basic needs? What is culturally happening there?
The culture is really about the culture is very one way.
Okay.
It was really about how the children have to meet the parents' needs instead
Yeah.
of the other way around.
Yes, and so you can see that your parents were, in that sense, a victim of their own culture, in that they were taught to meet their own needs, and you had to look up to your parents and admire your parents and put them first. And um, people who come to me say, "Well, I can't change my culture, and I have to respect my mother and my father." And I say to them, "Of course, respect your mother and your father, to a certain degree. If it's going to hurt you to behave that way, then you have to sometimes do what people do, is draw away from them. It's just that just because something is culturally acceptable doesn't mean it is psychologically healthy. Understand?
Mhm.
Okay, and sometimes it's a very, very tough choice, because people say, no, no, my culture, my culture, my culture. But then the cultural rules of putting mommy and daddy number one, the rules are ruining the person. And so then they have to choose. What are they going to choose? Mental health? Or are they going to choose following the cultural blueprint? Pretty tough choice. But then when you're sick from it already, then we have to go back to mental health. And that's why I so much emphasize mental health over culture. And hopefully they align. Hopefully they align. They don't always align. And that's why it's so important for us to recognize our human needs, even though we have different religions and races and cultures and so on and so forth. At the core of it, we are human beings that need to be loved and attuned to and mirrored, and we need to be put number one, especially in the first few years of life. This is so important. Healthy narcissism. So, do you know that in order to be healthily independent, we have to be healthily dependent? You can see this with little birds, right? They don't just kick the little bird out of the nest before they know how to fly. The little bird has to be dependent on the mom, the caretakers, before they fly. Same thing with us. We have to be healthily dependent before we're independent. And if that part got skipped, well, it's not too late, Lee. It really isn't too late. And I really give you a lot of credit, because a lot of the people that come to see me or my staff they're healing from people who have inflicted narcissistic injuries on them. And rarely does somebody study and take responsibility. So you're really on a pathway to healing your own narcissism by step number one, taking inventory on how you hurt other people and caring.
Yeah, it's also an extremely painful process, actually.
Okay, well, I don't mean this in a way of I love the pain for you. It's just that the pain is an indication that you care, okay? That you have empathy. So let's build on it, and you're welcome to call me, and I could put you with the right person on the team, and then we would have to go back to these childhood wounds and redo the blueprint, okay, and let out the psychological pain so that you could heal. But this pain that you're experiencing is a big indication that it's not okay for you to do that to other people. So this is the good news about your pain, okay?
Yeah. I have one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
I recently discovered this very, I would say it's the theme of my relationship with my mother, or the reason of most of her abuse was her envy of me.
Okay, yes.
And because of that, I've also attracted a lot of women into my life who came into my life as friends. But as the friendship grows, and there's a lot of envy in the friendship, and then it ended really badly. Okay. And once I realized that, I just felt very sad. And the saddest thing of it is that I'm not, like, at a certain time I was envious of another person too. I'm not like completely immune of this, but I'm a victim of being envied by another person and attacked and abused. I also victimized another person too.
So this is what I call the what the for, that you're looking to repair this envy pattern, and then you invite in the envy pattern, and then it's the same cycle. So it's the repetition principle. So again, in a healthy mother-daughter relationship, the mother is supposed to be proud of her daughter. The mother is supposed to be encouraging of the daughter to grow, and make space for the daughter to be pretty and smart and educated and independent and so on. In the narcissistic system, of course, there's such a lacking, there's a consciousness of lack of love, a lack of attention, that if somebody else is prettier or smarter or more talented or whatever, then the person makes it to mean that there's not enough to go around. So either you're going to be smart or I'm going to be smart. Either you're going to be successful or I'm going to be successful. There's no such concept of, I'm so happy for you. You're so successful. Well, I'm happy for you too. This is so wonderful. And this is what I call my panel 7, synergy, right? And I'm telling you, in your world, there was no such a world, but I'm introducing you to a new world where there are people who are actually happy for other people's success. And they encourage each other as growth partners to climb the scale. Okay? And this was not in your blueprint, so I don't blame you for functioning in this way. It's almost like people are only living in panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's no such thing as paradigm shift and the whole healing process. Okay, the recoding process and the healing. So one is the wounds, the reactions, the poor self-esteem encodings, the chaos, the defenses, and the breakdowns. And all of that is everything you've described, the envy and so on and so forth. So this is your world, but you've never been exposed to synergy, not even from birth, not even from birth. Okay, so it's sort of like a paradigm shift is understanding, oh my goodness, there's something else there for me that I never even knew was there for me. And I go back to my knowledge of, we know what we know. We know that we know the English language, correct? We know that we know it. And then we know what we don't know. Like I know that I don't know Chinese, for sure. I do not know Chinese, but I know that I don't know it. And then there are things that I don't know that I don't know. So I can't tell you what that is because I don't know, right? Because I've never been exposed to it. If I went to another planet, I would be saying all day long, I didn't even know that I didn't know this, and I didn't even know I didn't know this. So it's sort of like panel 7, 8, 9 is all the stuff that you didn't even know that you didn't even know. And now I'm telling you, this is all new, and you can have access to it. But you can't have access to it until you've completed the process of healing the old stuff that didn't work so that we could reboot the system and wipe it clean. Make sense to you? Okay, so yeah. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have a shot at healing this for you. You sound like a young woman. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, you're a young woman and you deserve love and you deserve a different game of life, a better game of life, not the game that you were taught. Okay, so feel free to reach out. And do you have a copy, a PDF of my book or the actual book? Do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay. Read it, and then reminding you that we have a complete recovery plan from narcissistic abuse, the Be the Cause Mind Map Journey to Healing from Narcissistic Abuse, hosted by Ptsd, and it's really on point, and it delves into everything that I'm talking about, the consciousness of apathy, the consciousness of fear behind this, the consciousness of putting the parents before the child. So a lot of healing to do, and I'm glad that you're peeling back the layers for yourself. And every time you do that, there's going to be pain involved because you're waking up. And if you didn't have pain, I'd be more concerned, because then we could truly say that you're so callous that you don't care. And if you don't care, then this is going to just keep cycling, just using people and playing the blame game or the envy game, and it's not going to stop. So I'm so glad you called in, okay? And thank you for staying up so late to talk. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, you're very welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. And with that conversation, I'm so encouraged that even people who have been narcissistically injured to the point where they're becoming narcissistic themselves, that maybe there's a way out of this mess, and it doesn't have to be a therapy that clobbers them on the head for being narcissists. It could be reparative therapy so that this manifestation of the hole in the soul doesn't have to end up pushing other people away and leaving them to be the pariahs of society. Because I think what's happening is that the more people are aware of narcissism, the more they're not willing to engage in this dynamic. And then maybe narcissists are going to have to wake up and say, I don't even know if I like it myself. And then start the process of going inward and exposing this and healing. Because again, it's a system gone wrong. It's not like you were born a narcissist. It's not like you woke up in the morning and decided to be. This is coming from all of these attachment disorders and catastrophic developmental consequences. And I'm going back to the article here, the tsunami of fear, trauma, terror, okay? The defense mechanisms of appearing confident and arrogant, but this is a hollow defense mechanism because underneath it is a shell of a person. It's a mask. And also, I have a lot of posts on Instagram. I'm really enjoying doing my own artwork for my Instagram quotes. There are just a lot of them. So find me on Instagram and read my quotes. And they're very relevant to what I'm talking about. Sometimes I get inspired by something somebody said to me in a session, or I get inspired by a conversation, and then I try to put those thoughts into a quote. And I'm going to jump to my song. I know we only have a couple minutes. The song and shrinking that tune, which I love to do. And this song is called Selfish Love by Jessie Ware. Baby, let's be honest about this. There's only room for one in your heart. So this is a person that is selfish. They just want the one. So tell me, darling, why are we like this? I must admit that I kind of like it. I know you're acting sweet. I know what that means. All these games we play. So this is that dance of dysfunction, playing the game to be sweet so that the person can love them, and then reversing the pattern, as we will see in the song. Always end the same. Selfish love. Why do I do these things? So selfish love is the opposite of that panel 7, the synergy. It's me, and me trying to be sweet to get something out of you, not so that we can grow together, but it's that selfish love. I break you down just to get my way. Selfish love, darling, you do it too. So both of them are involved. You tell me lies, I bend the truth, and I know that I can't get enough. So this is the addiction. So the hole in the soul is not allowing the person to keep the love and grow from the love. They're always needing more and more and more, and that's where the addiction. Maybe now it feels like we're dancing, a dysfunctional dance, I might add, touching bullets. So there's a recognition of the danger here. I only give love when I want to make it. So it's a manipulative love. When they want to make love, then they're nice. And if they don't, then they might just pass on the person, drop the person. Oh, you're acting so sweet. I know what that means. All these games we play always end the same. And then it keeps going about selfish love. Oh, you're acting so sweet. So this is selfish love, opposite of synergy. Selfish love is taught to us by our blueprint. Our parents, when they put their feelings before our feelings, they're teaching us selfish love. So thank you, everyone. And don't forget to request a free consultation if you want to, or a free PDF of the book. And sign up, subscribe to the channel so you will be notified. And check out my Instagram, okay? And follow me on Instagram. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the show. Good night.